The Nothing Phone 2 is one of those devices that exists in a void of its own. We've been testing this device for a few weeks, and in this video we're going to talk about what this phone is and whether it's going to be worth your money or not. So let's quickly get into it. The company Nothing itself was founded in 2020 amidst the pandemic, and it promised a new look at technology. The first product they launched also set an expectation from the company in which they set off on this transparent journey, which is what they've been following up until the Nothing Phone 2. The company's also established itself a little bit, and the Phone 2 for India is now manufactured in India itself. Although it still lacks in the service and support that you would expect from an established company, but it's still a fairly young brand, and we should see improvements over the coming year. That being said, let's move focus to the Nothing Phone 2, which is now pricier in India. It starts at 45,000 rupees, but this price is also the lowest if you look at the US and the UK prices, which are considerably higher. Which is why the Indian phone is also Indian SIM locked, and if you want to activate it, you need to activate it with an Indian SIM. And I'm assuming they're using this method to prevent these phones from being bought here and shipped outside for a profit. Now, when you move a phone from a 30,000 rupee price category to a 40,000 rupee price category, not only do you alienate your previous customer, you're also moving into a new customer category, and this customer's expectations are much more. And to fulfill that, Nothing has tried to make the phone feel a lot more premium. And most would agree that they've managed to do that with curving the glass on the back, and the overall fit and finish of the phone feels a lot better than the Nothing Phone 1, which did have its sharp edges. The Phone 2 also appears to be slimmer, even though it is thicker, heavier, and generally larger than the Phone 1. One thing that they've definitely missed out on is the IP certification. While they have provided an IP54, which is welcome, an IP68 is what you start to expect in this price category, especially when your phone starts at 45,000 rupees. Nothing has also opted to go in for Gorilla Glass 5, which is good, but not as good as the latest Gorilla Glass Victus, which does offer better scratch resistance and overall better durability. Again, something that you would expect from a phone in this price category. Let's talk about the display of the Nothing Phone 2. It's an LTPO panel this time around, but it still remains full HD. Again, when you come into this price category, you're expecting more. Look at the OnePlus 11R, which does offer a higher resolution display as opposed to the 394 pixels per inch that you get on the Nothing Phone 2. What's good here is, however, the numbers on paper look good with 1000 nits of outdoor brightness and 1600 nits of peak brightness. And while these numbers are impressive, certain things don't seem to function in direct sunlight, especially if you're using the camera app or the gallery app. The visibility in direct sunlight is almost zero in comparison to some of the other devices that offer similar numbers. And this could be a software or an optimization issue, but we've been testing this over the past couple of updates, and this doesn't seem to be addressed at all. Ignoring that one use case scenario, the display itself is pretty impressive. It has good colors and good contrast. It also has good viewing angles, and it also dims down to 1 Hz, being an LTPO display, which comes in clutch for things like the always on display, which now does offer up a lot more functionality as opposed to what we saw previously. The bezel around the display is also thinner from last year, but you do have a fairly thick bezel all around the device, which is not the case that you have in some other phones. The new OS is also another one of those aspects where you see that the company has paid a lot of attention. While it's monochrome in its design, it is a lot more polished. You have these custom folders that you can customize and also add icons to. You still have that black or white theme with a splash of red, which falls in line with their hardware design, so it sort of fits together. And then you have small things that they've paid attention to. So wherever you tap on the screen is where the wake up animation begins from. Whether you unlock the phone with the power button, you'll see the animation open from there, or whether you unlock the phone with the fingerprint sensor, you'll see the animation open from there, which just adds a little bit more of finesse to the user experience. You also have lock screen widgets, which do stay on in the always on display, which also gives it a really nice and clean look and a lot more functionality on the overall OS front. The Glyph Lights are one of those things that you may or may not like. This time around, you do have 32 addressable lights including this volume indicator, which also works as a timer and also works as a countdown for your Zomato food order. These lights are interesting and they offer up a different design to the overall phone. And you do have a Glyph composer this time around that allows you to compose your own ringtones. We did notice that the Glyph lights vary in brightness between the two colors. While the one on the gray seems more subtle, the one on the white are brighter, and they probably are reflecting from the white surface, making them appear brighter. Or this could just be an inconsistent brightness level between devices. The record indicator is also changed slightly, and you do have a persistent notification light that you can set up for a particular app. While these lights are interesting, I personally don't find myself using them a lot or them adding a lot of functionality. In public, I don't want these lights to be on anyway, and I turned them off on the Nothing Phone 1 quite soon after I had the device, and I tend to do the same with the Nothing Phone 2 as well. What are your thoughts on the Nothing Phone 2's Glyph lights? Let us know in the comments below. And let's move on to the performance aspect of the device, because this time around you're getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon Series 8 Plus Gen 1, which is a 4nm chip and offers up an improvement over the Nothing Phone 1's chipset, not only in terms of the category of the chip, but also the overall performance that you're getting out of the device. The phone feels really fast and fluid. The 120 Hz of display also helps, but you're also getting an overall improvement in the performance of the device out of the bat. They've also managed heat well, and while you're running applications, you don't seem to have any issue with throttling whatsoever. Some users have reported a crash dump of the software that is happening on their devices, and while this does seem to be a very small issue, hopefully nothing can address it, and that is where we will see what their service and support is like, and also see if they do offer up a software update to resolve this issue. The phone 2 also starts with 8GB of RAM with 128GB of storage, which is the starting variant. While this may be enough for a lot of people, we still feel that the 256GB variant should have been the starting variant for the Nothing Phone 2, considering the price that the phone has been launched at. The cameras are also two 50-megapixel cameras this time around, and you see an improvement in image quality, especially from the main camera. The ultra-wide doesn't have consistent results, and we found that images are considerably different when compared to the main camera and the ultra-wide camera. You also have good video quality on the main cameras as well, with 4K 60 being offered from the main camera, and you do have the ability to have live HDR with 4K 30 FPS and a slow-mo video with 480 FPS. These things add on to the overall usability of the device, and the ultra-wide camera also does macro at 4 centimeters, which also is something that I like. Instead of popping in a low-quality macro camera, they've managed to get the ultra-wide to do macro shots as well. The selfie camera only does 1080p at 60 FPS, which I think is a little bit of a letdown. While selfies are decent enough, and you do have a portrait mode which works well on both the main camera as well as the front camera. With the second generation of the device, we expected a lot more from the cameras, and they leave a lot to be desired, especially from things like HDR and overall video quality and consistency between the cameras. The battery on the phone 2 is also larger with a 4700 mAh battery size. This will last you about a day and a half without any issues, with pretty intense use cases that we tend to have. With that, it also supports 45 watts of charging, and Nothing does sell a charger, which will allow your phone to go to about 100% in about an hour or about 50% in 20 minutes. The good thing is that the phone also supports wireless charging and also supports reverse wireless charging, so you can charge up your Nothing earphones if you have them directly from the phone itself, and the animation and the Glyph lights look pretty cool while doing the charging effect. Now, while the Nothing Phone 2 is a considerable improvement over the Nothing Phone 1, a lot of the improvement seems to be focused more on form over function. The improvements to the Glyph lights, for those who use them, the Nothing OS 2, the improvements to the display and overall build and design are welcome, while things like the inconsistent cameras, the overall sound from the speakers being tinny, and the lack of HDR support for apps like Netflix is something that is a considerable question if you compare the device to competitors like the OnePlus 11R or even the Pixel 7 that is available in the same price category now. The Phone 2 does offer up a unique proposition in this otherwise boring market, where you do have the transparent design, the Glyph lights, the operating system, which at the end of it may be enough for you to consider buying this device. If you're interested in checking out the Nothing Phone 2, we'll have links in the description below. Like I said, if you're interested in doing a deep dive into the Glyph Lights, you can go check out our first impressions video, and make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button to get notified each time iGyaan uploads a new video. This has been Bharat. You've been watching iGyaan. I will see you guys in the next one.